Chapter 3 of Heroes of the Middle Ages. This is a LibriVox recording. All LibriVox recordings are in the public domain. For more information or to volunteer, please visit LibriVox.org. Heroes of the Middle Ages by Eva M. Tappan. Chapter 3 Genseric the Vandal sacks Rome. A few years after the death of Attila, Rome was once more in the hands of an invader, Genseric the Vandal. The Vandals were great wanderers. They slowly made their way from the shores of the Baltic Sea to the Danube, passed through what is now France, and went south into Spain. Only 8 or 9 miles from Spain, just across what is now the Strait of Gibraltar, lay Africa. Northern Africa belonged to Rome. It was one of her most valued provinces because, while Italy could not raise enough grain to feed her people, Africa could supply all that was needed. Genseric longed to add Africa to his domain, and he was more fortunate than most men who wish to invade a country, for after a little while he received a cordial invitation to come to Africa and bring his soldiers with him. The invitation was given by no less a man than the brave General Boniface, who had been appointed governor of the province. This is the way it came about. Aetius was jealous of the success of Boniface, and he persuaded the mother of the child emperor to send the governor a letter recalling him. Then he himself wrote a letter to his friend Boniface with the warning that the empress was angry with him, and he would lose his head if he risked it in Rome. Boniface was in hard position. He concluded that the safest thing for him to do was to remain where he was, and ask Genseric to help him to hold Africa. Genseric did not wait to be urged. He hurried across the Strait of Gibraltar and began his career of violence. A Vandal conquest was more severe than that of any other tribe, for the Vandals seemed to delight in ruining everything that came into their power. They killed men, women, and children. They burned houses and churches, and they destroyed whatever treasures they could not carry away with them. Some said that whenever they conquered a country, they cut down every fruit tree within its limits. This is why people who seem to enjoy spoiling things are sometimes called Vandals. After a while Boniface discovered how he had been tricked by Aetius, and he begged Genseric to leave the country. But the barbarian refused, and Boniface could not drive him away. Genseric and his followers settled in Africa, making the city of Carthage the capital of their kingdom, and they became a nation of pirates. They built light, swift vessels and ravaged the shore of any country where they expected to find plunder. All this time Genseric had his eyes fixed upon Italy, and again he was fortunate enough to be invited to a land which he was longing to invade. This time the widow of a murdered emperor begged him to come and avenge her wrongs. He wasted no time, but crossed the narrow sea and marched up to the walls of Rome. Behold, the gates were flung open, and once more Leo, now a hoary-headed man, came forth with his clergy, all in their priestly robes, to beg the Vandals to have mercy. Genseric made some promises, but they were soon broken. For 14 days the Vandals did what they would. They were in no hurry, they had plenty of ships to carry away whatever they chose, and after they had chosen there was little but the walls remaining. They snatched at gold and silver and jewels, of course, but they took also brass, copper and bronze, silken robes, and even furniture. Works of art were nothing to them, unless they were of precious metal and could be melted. And what they did not care to take with them, they broke or burned. The widowed empress had expected to be treated with the greatest honor, but the Vandals stripped off her jewels and threw her and her 2 daughters on board their ships to be carried to Africa as prisoners. Genseric kept his nation together as long as he lived, and indeed, though the Romans made many expeditions against the Vandals, it was nearly 80 years before the pirates were conquered. End of the chapter 3.